Hello, hello. Welcome to Brain Buzz with Mike. I'm Mike Harrigan, coming to you from the Braining Center. So have you ever wanted to learn a new physical skill or activity? Or have you ever wondered how superior athletes can do such spectacular things physically while still maintaining their cognitive awareness of what's going on around them? Well, it seems as though they're doing it without even thinking. And partly you're right. But it's not just how long they practice to develop this skill, it's actually how they practice that often makes the difference. So I'm going to show you a little bit of a demonstration here to try to make this point. I want you to stand with your fist facing me and point one pinky at one thumb. Then I want you to switch without moving your hands, just move your fingers and have the other pinky pointing at the thumb. And then go back, and then back, and then back, and then go faster and faster and faster and faster. Now, if you're like most people, when you first learn to do this, it's very, very difficult. For me, it was very difficult when I first started to learn to do this. But I was able to master it and actually be able to think about other things while I'm doing it. I could be doing mathematical equations or anything else while I'm doing it because of the way I practiced. So let's dig into what's going on here. So we have in our brains two processing systems. We have our conscious processing system and our subconscious processing system. Two computers, if you will. Now, on a conscious level, we can only be thinking of one thing at a time. So that processing system can only be literally focusing on one thing at a time. You can't be thinking of two things simultaneously. But you can be focused, you can switch back and forth on a conscious level. Now, your subconscious processing system is really like a supercomputer. It's processing all kinds of information all the time simultaneously. It's regulating our heart and our lungs and all of our internal organs while monitoring our temperature and blood pressure and all these other vital signs. And it's forming and regulating our habits and our senses, even our instincts. Okay? So what's happening when we're doing this? Well, when we first learn how to do the pinky thumb exercise, as I call it, we have to think about it on a conscious level because our automatic system, our subconscious system, doesn't know what it's supposed to do yet. So we have to consciously be thinking about exactly what we're supposed to be doing. So we think about the thumb is going to come in and this pinky's going to come out. Then we switch and say this pinky's coming in and switch and say this thumb's coming out. And then we switch back, pinky, pinky, thumb, thumb, pinky, pinky, thumb, and we start switching a little bit faster, still thinking about it on a conscious level. And then after a certain amount of time, we're able to speed up and speed up and speed up. And if you keep practicing this, you're able to do this on a subconscious level. Now, the reason is because we've actually fed the subconscious the two things it needs to make a change and to be able to take something over and do it automatically. And that is data and priority. That's important. Those are the key factors of neuroplasticity, which is vital to everything we learn. So data and priority. So the way we get data into the brain is through our various senses. Okay? Our eyes, our ears, our mouth, our nose, our limbs. All these feed data to the brain. But the brain is getting so much information all the time that it can only focus on certain things at once. It ignores a great deal of information all the time. So by practicing this in very slow motion and looking at our thumb and our pinky and then our pinky and our thumb and really digesting it and going through it very, very slowly, we're giving the information the subconscious needs, that data, and by practicing it very slowly and doing it over and over, we're making sure the unconscious understands that this is a priority. So we've now given it the two keys to neuroplasticity, the data it needs and the understanding that this is important to us, the high priority, right? So how can we use this information for other things besides just pointing our pinkies at our thumbs, right? Well, you can use this really for many, many things, whether it be physical movements or even some cognitive skills. Our unconscious cannot handle too much information at once when it's trying to learn. Because remember, to learn, we first have to start on the conscious level. And we can only be consciously thinking of one thing at a time. So what's the best way to do this, to learn something? Well, if there's something that requires a lot of activity, a lot of movements to it. Let's take for example a dance step, a dance movement that has 4 steps. Okay, there's 4 steps to this. It could just as easily be a wrestling move or some other kind of movement, or it could even be a complicated cognitive challenge that you have to do. The best thing to do is to break it down into parts. So say it has 4 steps to it. You go to the first step and you start to do the movement, and in this case, let's say it's a dance step. You think about doing just that one little piece of it in slow motion. You think about all that's happening during that one little step of the movement. And it might be what you're doing with your feet, what you're doing with your hands, where your head is, where your elbows are. And you think about each one of those body parts and where they're supposed to be during that very brief point. And you do it very, very slowly. If that part of the move takes a half of a second, you take 10 seconds to go through it, right? And then you start to speed up a little. When you get to where you can do that perfectly in slow motion, you start to speed up a little bit. And when you get it down at that speed, you speed up a little more and a little more until you're doing everything just right, just perfectly in slow motion for that part of the movement, step 1. Then you can move on to step 2. Remember, this movement had 4 steps to it. So then you move on to the second part, the second step, and you do the same thing. You think about where all your body parts are. You do that in slow motion. You don't speed up until you get it down in slow motion. Then you slowly speed up until you've mastered that part of it. And then you go on to step 3 and step 4. Now you've completed all of it. You've got all parts of this movement have been practiced and executed well on their own. Then you piece them together, and what you'll find in the end is you're able to learn this very complicated movement faster than if you had tried to just do it from scratch, and much better. You'll be much more efficient at it, and you'll be doing it much more effectively. I use this practice quite a bit when I'm coaching athletes and non-athletes. And specifically, particularly in wrestling, because there's a lot of moves that have different stages to the move and require lots of different activities on the part of all your different body parts, right? So it's a very, very effective tool for learning something, whether it be a complex physical movement or a complicated cognitive challenge. So I hope this was helpful for you, and I hope you can use this practice to help master some skill and actually take better control of both your brain and your body. Now remember, you can always check out other Brain Buzz segments on our YouTube channel by going to YouTube and searching for Braining Center. And if you ever have any questions, you can contact me, Mike Harrigan, by emailing me at brainingcenter@headstrong1.com. That's brainingcenter@headstrong1.com. Thanks and have a great one.